As we further prepare to write an argumentative essay in the coming weeks, there's some important ideas and terminology that we should become comfortable with so we can better use within our own writing. When you consider what an argumentative essay is, some might consider that it's just putting your position in writing on a topic. Unfortunately, that's the wrong thinking to go into this writing with, because there are other elements that you need to have in order to write a fully supported essay. Really, beyond just your position, there are 5 important parts to any good argumentative essay. There is the claim, a phrase that we've already discussed. There are your reasons. There is the evidence that you provide, the counter argument, and the rebuttal. Each of these is important to have to make the most convincing and persuasive argument you possibly can. Leaving anyone out will lessen the effectiveness of the argument you are trying to present. First, there's a claim. This is the sentence, the statement that drives your whole argument. The writing and thinking behind your body paragraphs, the evidence that you gather from your sources, the counter argument you anticipate the other side bringing, and your response to them in the rebuttal are all coming back to the claim. So this sentence is really the most important sentence of your entire essay. An example for us to look at: students should not be attending school on a modified daily schedule. So that might mean additional time in the school day beyond what they traditionally have right now. When you look at this claim, you realize there is no use of the word I. I feel students should not be attending school on a modified daily schedule. Or I believe students should not be attending school on a modified schedule. When a writer uses the word I in a sentence like the one you see here, the focus is moved away from the topic, and the focus then becomes on the personal opinion and position of the writer. So we want to avoid the use of the word I. There's also, as you look at this sentence, there's no middle ground. There's no riding the fence. It is very clear that this person believes in their position and is stating it here very clearly for the reader to understand. But the claim by itself is not good enough. You have to convince people why the claim is true using reasons that you come up with, and then evidence from your sources to support those reasons and ultimately support the claim. Your reasons. These come from you. This is something that comes out of your ideas and your thoughts and your beliefs on the topic. You'll hear us commonly use the analogy of comparing them to legs on a table. The more legs you have, the stronger it is. You can't just have one reason or two reasons in your evidence. One or two legs isn't going to make a table stay upright. You need at least 3 legs for a table, 4 is better, and so on. In our essay, we're going to create 3 reasons to support our claim. So to continue with that modified daily schedule, potentially adding more time to the daily schedule a student attends, our first one might be something like, hey, most working parents would have trouble finding proper childcare due to this modified schedule. Then maybe my second one would be some students have jobs and therefore can't work as many hours that they need to because the school year or school day is being modified. And perhaps my third reason might be students need time for other activities. These are all going back to supporting the claim. These are from the writer, and they're all very different. They have 3 different reasons. They don't sound similar. You want reasons that are going to be your body paragraphs that sound like 3 different things. So your paragraphs write about 3 different things and make your argument stronger. And again, remember, these are the reasons we come up with, but ultimately they become the body paragraphs. Reason 1 becomes body paragraph 1. Reason 2 would become body paragraph 2. Reason 3 would become body paragraph 3. Now that we've got our claim, which comes from us, the writer, and we have our reasons, which also come from us, the writer, now is when we go out into the sources that we've located and find evidence from other places, experts, research, other pieces of information we can find outside of ourselves that supports our belief. Makes us more convincing because we have found evidence from outside ourselves that supports this topic. It's not just us believing it. We can find other places where people believe the same thing that we do. This, though, is not your essay. Very common mistake we see people do when it comes to argumentative essays. They create an essay that is built around their essay research, their evidence. They find a bunch of evidence, think they can just put that in the essay. It's mainly words from their sources, and then therefore that will be their essay. The evidence is meant to help your essay, help prove your point of your words and your ideas. It's not meant to be your essay. When it comes to evidence, there are 3 kinds of evidence that you can use. One is facts. These are statistics, research, data. This deals with numbers and number words, like we talked about with our nonfiction signposts. So if you see numbers, percentages, number words, you know that that is the fact type of evidence for our essay. For example, continue with our extended or modified school day schedule. A fact in that topic may say 4 out of 5 school counselors recommend prioritizing academics, or 8.4% of students believe in after-school employment. The second type of evidence that a person can use when writing an essay would be an anecdote. This is an example story, but not just any example story. The story that is told in this example has to somehow tie in to the topic we're writing about. Again, this is about a modified school schedule. So you might say students across the country work evening jobs while attending high school. Joanna is a teenager from Margate who spends 25 hours a week serving up pizza at a local restaurant after school. An example that helps us prove our point of our claim. The third kind of evidence you can potentially pull from to use in your argumentative essay is an expert opinion. This is someone who has a lot of knowledge and understanding about the topic. They study it, they research it, they write about it. This is something that they are very passionate about and knowledgeable about. Dr. Amber Young from the University of California noted in a recent study that the financial benefits a student receives may have a negative effect on the student's school experience. So in this example, we see, number 1, we have identified the expert. We use her title, doctor, her first name, Amber, and her last name, Young. We put her full name, and where she's from, University of California. That way, if someone reading our essay has absolutely any doubt about our position or information on the topic, they could go and research this person on their own. Facts, numbers, statistics, number words, anecdotes, example story, powerful example story that helps prove our point, an expert opinion on the topic. If you choose to use this, it's got to have the name, the full name of the expert and their source, where they're from, why we should believe them. Where can you get your evidence from? There's a lot of different places you can do this. You can get them from published texts like books and scholarly journals that are written commonly on the topic. Typically, people who are passionate and knowledgeable and work in a field will create a journal or magazine that publishes articles about their topic. That is a very valuable place you can find evidence from, trustworthy place. Research studies, if doctors, professors, universities, colleges have done research on a topic, they've typically studied an issue or a topic over years. They've studied and done surveys and studies of people over hundreds of people, sometimes thousands of people. That is a very dependable body of work because of how many people or how long they've been working on that topic. You can look at articles from newspapers, magazines, and websites. These are very valuable because the person writing the topic is, or the article is not normally an expert on the topic. So in their newspaper, magazine, or website articles, they will quote an expert. It's one of those places you get an expert opinion from because they'll quote somebody. Since the newspaper, magazine, website writer is not the expert typically, they will talk to experts. And so articles are a great place to get evidence from. And any other published or credible sources, brochures, flyers, anything that you might go with here, make sure that you run past the teacher so that they can guide you towards what are good and not good sources to use. We don't want you to get started on your essay, believe you've got a great source, and then get towards the end of the process, realize the one you thought was good had never been looked at by us. We say, that's not a good source. We got to get rid of it. And then you got to take a step backwards, which we don't want to have happen to you. When you do find a source you want to use information from, whether it's a newspaper, magazine, website, if it's an anecdote, an expert opinion, a fact, like a statistic, you have to make sure that you give credit to your source. This information has not come from you. You can't take credit for that information in your essay and not give credit to the writer or the researcher who did the work. If you do, that's plagiarism. Stealing information, claiming it's yours when it's really not. And if done enough in an essay, it can result in an F or a need to redo the essay to show you can do the proper research and give proper credit to the sources. So you should always tell where you get your information from. And you can do this a couple ways. One, you can lead off the beginning of the sentence that you're using the information by giving credit to the author who wrote it. For example, you might say, according to journalist Dan Byers, comma, and then the line represents whatever information you got from his article. Leading off right off the bat saying, this came from Dan, did not come from me. I want to make sure you know where the information came from because I didn't write it. This shows, again, that you're giving credit to the author you took the information from in their article. You can also do it a second way. The blank again represents the words you've taken from your source. Then you put a comma and something like, as stated in the article, working at school and working, a student's struggle. This shows the reader of your essay the title of the article you took some information from, giving credit to where you got it from and not claiming it as your own. Please, please, please make sure that you are giving credit as we're writing our rough drafts and getting into our final drafts in a few weeks, that you make sure you are giving credit to the author, the expert, or the article it came from, or maybe even some combination of those three things. How do you know if a source is credible? Well, can the information be checked for accuracy? Can you find it in multiple articles, or is it just in one? The more places you find that information you want to use repeated, the more accurate you can assume that information is, because lots of places are using it. The author provides his or her source. If you're reading a newspaper article, a magazine article, a website article, the author makes claims about the topic but does not give any source of that information, that is not a credible place to use in your essay. If the information comes from a respected publication, a journal on the topic, a medical journal is a respected publication. A newspaper website, like a major newspaper locally, like the Akron Beacon Journal or the Cleveland Plain Dealer, the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune, the Washington Post, these large established newspapers have a respected publication idea that you can use, or even magazines, CNN, Newsweek. These are all respected publications that have been around a long time because they are credible. They've proven to be credible, and so we can trust them to use as a source in our essay. If the author backs up his or her information with evidence, if they make a statement and they want you to believe it's true, they will typically provide you with facts or anecdotes or an expert opinion to back that up. That is a way you could say a source is credible. And is it timely? If the information is timely, we are looking at a certain time period since it's published, because things are changing so rapidly in our world. There are so many technological and medical and social advances happening that we need to know that the information we use in our essay is current. I can't give you an exact number of years you could go back and tell you, well, if it's published before this date, it's not timely. Each essay, each position on the essay, each topic of the essay is different. So if you're wondering if a source is timely after you've read it and you look at the date, please ask us. We'll be glad to tell you if it is recent enough to use, or maybe if we should look for an article or an essay or a journal that has more recent information. Using information that is not timely can make it feel like maybe there's nothing new on the topic, so this is an old topic that everybody's already established. The counter argument. You have to be prepared that there's going to be people who disagree with your position on the topic. That's what makes our society great, is that there can be people who have different issues on the same topic that can spur on a lot of great thought and conversation and change. In our essay, we need to position ourselves to be prepared to defend our position, to hear the other side, to consider what the other side might say, and be prepared for a response to them. There response, the opposition's response to our position, is called the counterargument. If someone on the opposite side of the topic read your essay, read a paragraph from your essay, how would they oppose it? What would you anticipate they would say in opposition to your topic? The counterargument is a sentence. It's going to be in each body paragraph, stating what you anticipate the opposition might say about the main point of that paragraph. So let's stick with the example we've been going with. An essay is written on students not having cell phones in class. Someone writes an essay. They want you to believe that kids should not have cell phones in the class. Within this essay, there might be a paragraph that states, hey, there's already technology in the classroom. There's other ways to get information. Kids don't need to have their phones. So that paragraph might say, sometimes technology isn't available and having a cell phone could help students with their hard work. So I've written a paragraph in my essay about why kids should not have cell phones in class. The opposition might read that and say, well, sometimes technology isn't available, like Chromebooks have died or the network is down. And if kids had cell phones, that could help them get their work done. So that sentence in italics could be the counter argument to a person's position who's writing about not having cell phones in the classroom. Fortunately, though, we as writers get a chance to respond to this counter argument statement. This is called the rebuttal. Following the counter argument, this is your opportunity to address the point that was made in the counter argument and to further support your position by proving why that they're wrong. As we previously used our example, sometimes technology isn't available, and having a cell phone could help students with their work. In other words, here's why your argument is wrong in this essay, and I'm going to tell you what you should reconsider. The rebuttal to explain why this counterargument is wrong might say, well, lacking technology in the classroom, instead of going to a cell phone, gives you the opportunity to use other sources, books, and magazines. It's a benefit to not have a cell phone, because then you're challenged to find information and evidence in other places like books and magazines. So you get a chance to state your position in your body paragraph, anticipate what they might say in the counter argument, and then a chance to respond to that with a rebuttal. So what makes an argumentative essay strong? You got to have a clearly stated claim. There can be no doubt whatsoever after reading the claim what your essay is about and what your argument is going to be focused on. You need strong reasons that you develop, not from anywhere else, but from you, that support your claim. The more reasons you have, the more strong your argument is. For this essay, we're aiming for 3 reasons that represent 3 body paragraphs of our essay. When you write the reasons, make sure that you find some evidence to support them. Those could be statistics, numbers and percentages, number words, could be anecdotes, which are powerful stories, could be expert opinions. Make sure the evidence you do have is from a credible source, a source that not just you, but other people could trust on the topic because they've put the time and effort into studying it. Make sure that you use more than one type of evidence. You do not want to only use facts or anecdotes or only expert opinions, because it weakens your argument. The opposition is say, well, you can't find evidence of more than one type, so it can't be that strong of an argument you're trying to make because you can't find a wide range of information. We want facts and anecdotes and expert opinions used in this essay. And then a counterargument has been addressed. You recognize and admit people are not going to all agree with you. What do you think they would say? And then, of course, a rebuttal for each one. How would you respond? As we're building this essay, we start with the claim. Then we're going to challenge you to come up with those 3 reasons of your own. And within those reasons, which represent our body paragraphs, each one needs evidence that is specific to the topic of the paragraph. So here we'll go back to where we started with this claim that students should not be attending school on a modified daily schedule. No adjustments to the hours or start or end times, just a regular schedule. And we had our first reason, as most working parents have the evenings off and students need to be with their families. Our second one was some students have jobs. And our third one was students need time for other activities. We write these first before we go any further because as a writer, we want to be able to stop and consider, do all 3 reasons sound very different from each other? We don't want them repetitive. We don't want them sounding alike. So the first thing we do after our claim is we consider what are the 3 reasons we're going to talk about in our essay. Then we start looking at our research from our sources and finding evidence that backs up those specific reasons. Our evidence should not be general or generic or mismatched to the reason. It's got to go with the reason to strengthen the argument. So for reason 1, most working parents have evenings off and students need to be with their families. Maybe I find an article from the West Side Leader and they say students who work in the evenings communicate less with their parents. According to the West Side Leader, Copley students who work see their parents less than 20 hours a week. This writer is referring to an article they found where it has a statistic in it, where they surveyed Copley students about how often they see their parents when they have a job. So reason 1 about having evenings off to be with their families, this piece of evidence proves it. Reason 2, some students have jobs. In a recent study by Florida University, 86% of 11th and 12th graders at Sarasota Springs High School work in the evenings. Again, a piece of evidence that is a statistic, 86%. This study by Florida University proves that they've surveyed hundreds of juniors and seniors to come up with that 86%. It helps the reason that goes above it. And then finally, students need time for other activities. This one is an expert. We know who the expert is, Giselle Carter. We know who she's with, the Center for Healthy Families. That is a group that focuses on the health of individuals and family members within a family. And we know where they're at, Knowles, Wyoming. So students need time for other activities. Giselle Carter from the Center for Healthy Families in Knowles, Wyoming, warns that students who do not participate in extracurricular activities face a greater risk of dropping out of high school. That piece of evidence, that expert opinion, supports the reason of the paragraph it fits with. Make sure your evidence fits with the paragraph it's going into. Don't write an essay where your evidence seems to be just thrown in there for no reason whatsoever. It's got to fit with the topic of the paragraph. So as we get into writing this argumentative essay, Please keep in mind we need to have a strong claim, reasons to come from us, different types of evidence from reliable sources, different types of evidence, anecdotes, expert opinions, statistics. We have to describe a counterargument, and we have to describe a rebuttal to respond to that. If we have these pieces and we do these pieces well, we will have an argumentative writing that we're proud of and presents all of the basic and good parts of argumentative writing.